All right, guys, we're here in Estonia, wrapping up another conference in the European scene. But we just wrapped up Seller Sessions Live in London, one of the marquee events, certainly in the UK and across Europe. And so we wanted to have a little bit of fun with this one. I already did a bit of a debrief on the presentations in one of our previous podcast episodes. But since we're both in the same town, which is always fun for us to do, to catch up in person, kind of wanted to peel the onion back a little bit on what it takes to put on a conference. I think for me, I actually entered the space with my own brands kind of just before COVID, and then COVID kind of took us out for almost a couple of years in terms of seeing people in person. So my first experience at an event was going to Prosper, which was right after COVID. Since then, I think there's been a ton of success with those first couple events after COVID. The scene's blown up. And I think as an Amazon seller, you probably have 20 plus choices or more to make. So, and I think with that, there's obviously different caliber events. There's different approaches that people take to events. So let's peel the onion back on Seller Sessions. I'm generally curious. I think a lot of people are curious what actually happens in that conference space specific to Amazon. Maybe let's start off with the story, because I don't even know if I know the full backstory. How did it come about? Why did you decide to kick off an event? Because it's not a great business model. For those that don't know, it's a difficult business.
It's a tough business, I mean, quite interestingly, I won't name names, but we started back in 2019. And back then, I'd already, since 2015, been put on the meetups, like your meetup.coms, done loads of those, and it was great. They're free entry, free pizza, free education. And back then, you had like the currency companies. So you get a bit of budget from the currency companies. It allows you to put these on. People come along, have a beer and stuff, but you'll get like a high churn rate. So you get newbies come along, and you've got existing, and then it'll be a continuous cycle. Now, we got to a point, I was working with a guy called Anthony back in 15 and 16. And we got to the point where they were rammed. So we moved up the venue. And then there was a time when we put on double events. But when you do a free event like that, people put their name down in advance.
Of course.
And then we had 2 events we put on back to back. And they both were in the summer. And they both end up being half empty when the reason we done the second one, because everyone was complaining they couldn't get their name down. And then we had a bit of a heat wave and half people showing. I'm like, why are we doing all this? As much as I love to support, it's like, you still have a cycle of a month of putting these on, right? And that's really where I suppose the idea of the podcast come from, because you still want to do what you do, but the podcast started January 2017. And that could become more global, but you didn't have the month set up. You could spend all the time on content and your guests and stuff. So that become more effective instead of having the monthly cycle, the events. So as the podcast started to develop and grow, it was sticky trying to grow that. I mean, we started in the January. It's a lesson for anyone when it comes down to you find your marketing channel and then you double down. On Amazon now it's PPC or it's external traffic, whatever you make up. But with something like that, it's quite funny. We started in the January 2017, and then what happened is we were doing every 2 weeks. We were doing webinars. So bring people on, you register for it. But the webinars started to fall over a bit because you were speaking to people in hotels with poor internet connections and stuff, and they started to fall apart. So what we did, we pivoted to YouTube. So we had all the registrations. When a YouTube was done, it would be pre-recorded, and then we'll send that traffic to say, hey, it's live, go and watch that on Wednesday. Single digit growth. And then we went to, said, okay, so how do we grow upon this? So once we had about 30 shows done, we then took and made show notes of all those previous ones, and then grew sellersessions.com as a blog. Got into a few thousands, organic, long tail traffic, etc., etc. Still slow. And it wasn't until we added the podcast element, it took off like a rocket ship. 40% growth instantly, bang, 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 month. Just kept growing. And that was a lesson in finding, I called it finding the pocket. You find the pocket. Who are you? What do you want to do? Some people are good writers. I come out of school, no qualifications and stuff. And I feel that I'm pretty good at communication in person, having a conversation.
And you were a VJ, and you had, verbally talking and sharing ideas is your bag, and you get fulfillment and energy from it.
And I love
because if you don't get
to
energy from something, You can maybe do it for 6 months, but
Yeah.
at some point you're going to hit a wall if you're not being true to what you really love doing, right?
Exactly,
Yeah.
and I think that some people can articulate themselves very well with the written word.
Yeah.
That's not my game. I think having a vibe with someone,
Yeah.
which comes down to the events as well, is you build a vibe with people. I'm a big believer in energy, without going into the woo-woo stuff.
Yeah.
Right? If you walk into a room, you can pick up whether there's a bad vibe, good vibe. Everyone can do it. It's your
Yeah.
intuition, right?
Yeah.
And it's the same thing. Is just trying to be around good people with good energy, because energy rubs off, and energy is amplification as well,
Yeah.
whether that's positive or negative. So I've always focused on the good vibe of stuff where I can.
Yeah.
And so when we started in 2019, it was at the David game, and someone said, Dan, you should do a set of sessions. I'll put some money in, we'll set it up. And I wasn't sure, do you know what I mean? He said, look, I'll bankroll it, and he went missing. So I went, I'm going to do it myself, right? So started up seller sessions. I remember the grind for it, because no one would touch you, right? Everyone wants to give you an affiliate link, but no one wants to back you. No one wants to do sponsorship and everything else. And I remember grinding day after day after day, and you get that pit in your stomach.
Because you make financial commitments to the venue well in advance before you even know that anyone's interested.
You
right?
got your venues, you got your hotels and stuff. We spent less back then,
Yeah.
because we didn't know what the outcome was going to be. But it was like, I looked at the UK and I looked at the EU, and what I found was there was a lot of events where either they were the meetups, and I look at the UK and we look at the US. I believe I know my market quite well, right? So in the US, you're spoiled. You've got all the big speaker name people that speak at events. You've got city by city, lots of activity going on, and then you get the UK and you've got hubs. London's a hub, Manchester's a hub, a bit, and then you've got like a few in Brighton. It's very scattered.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at the seller session audience, half the audience fly in to the event, half.
Yeah.
So you get the appearance from the outside. Look at seller session, sold out, sold out, sold out. It's easy. It's not. It's a year's worth of work.
Yeah.
You've got to cultivate the room. You've got to get the right people in there, and you've got to get the right blend. And what I do, I believe, is different to other people when it comes to events. And this comes from 29 years of experience. I've done my first promotion 29 years ago. It'll be 30 next year. I start with the experience first, and then I write an economic model around the experience.
Okay.
Now, an experience doesn't mean gold-plated walls. To me, the experience is the vibe. What kind of vibe can you cultivate? And when I looked at the UK, great conferences and stuff, all the same. Wearing suits, pineapple, cheese, and it's like, I want people to express themselves.
Yeah.
And I think that's the music side coming
Yep.
from, music industry. A lot of these people that are sitting behind their computers, maybe worked in corporate, do they want to throw another suit on and go to an Amazon event?
Yeah.
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I want you to come, and I want you to walk away with an experience. Now, the David game that we got was very cheap to hire. Hence, I could sell pretty much on the cheapest price in the industry, and I've never raised my price since 2019.
I didn't know that.
The same model all the way through. All what's happened is we've got better investment in terms of sponsorship that keeps the price down, and with that, I will pay for the economy flights, hotels for speakers, their dinners, because I want to bring what I believe is the very best. And I try and mix it where I get new blood and the ones that people know about. So if there's someone new coming through, I'm able to utilise the podcast audience to give people a run out.
Yeah.
That's how I was able to get so expansive with Branded by Women, and you're seeing a lot more higher profile women in the industry now, is because I was able to use the podcast as a way of putting people on. Obviously, these wonderful women are already established themselves.
Yeah.
But when you put, back in the day, let's say as an example, when you put Isabella out there and Sharon, every single week, it becomes ubiquitous.
Yep.
Yeah, and the ladies look at that and go, oh, Sharon. I can relate to Sharon, but I relate to Isabella differently. Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%.
It's the same with Athena and the other. And so it was able to build a vehicle there so we can see more women on podcasts, more women on stage, more women visible at events, because women need a safe space, right? Most guys don't understand this. They think of safety as physical protection, right? You speak to most ladies, they need to feel safe on multiple levels.
Yep.
Emotionally, mentally, energetically, and physically.
Yep.
It needs to be a safe space. And what you'll find is, as more ladies see more ladies at events, more ladies will come.
Yep.
Whereas I think before we've had it where it is a high ratio of men. So the ladies that would come out, you know, are cool with it, but I want to make sure it's a good environment for that. And I think we've seen that grown across
100%.
the board.
Yep.
Yeah. So going back to the model again, it comes down to an experience. And the way I price tickets, I start with the seller first, not the ticket price. So let's say you go to somewhere in Vegas, any of the events, that's $5,000 to $7,000.
Yeah.
And you go, well, how do you get to that number, Dan? Okay, let me break it down for you. It's $1,500 for a ticket or $1,000.
Yeah.
4 or 5 nights in the hotel, plus your taxis.
Yep.
Then your per diems. So you might even if
and your $25 cocktails and whatever, you know.
Yeah, your food in the day for shit food is $100.
Yeah, exactly.
Your breakfast is 40 plus your taxis plus your tips, and you know, once you start adding all that stuff up, right? And then you've got international or domestic flights. Then you've got your taxis. Then you've got your bar bill if you go out and you get around in. I'll pick up a round. It's $400, $200, $300. You do that every night, you'll soon get to the number between 5,000 and 7,000.
Which is why I think in this last Prosper, you saw a lot of people go to Vegas for the networking, but a lot of people didn't go to the show. So it was sponsorships, larger agencies, like bigger professional companies that were the people attending the events, and much less sellers. From what I've gathered. So you're 100% right.
So the essence is I try and price it because I look at it and I go, okay, the seller. It's a one-day event, and there's a reason behind it, because people go, you should do more days, right? Absolutely not. Do you know why? If you want to try and bring in the very best, and you can squeeze that into one day to give a great experience, and leave people wanting more, that is far better than having day 2, where you drop the quality. Yeah. Does that make sense? Yeah. So if I have
there's also a drop when you talk about vibe, because I think that's super important for how you feel when you leave an event.
Yeah.
You've drank maybe 2 nights, even if it's say it's a 2-day event. You drink the day you get there, meet up with people you haven't seen for a bit. You have a full 8-hour day when you're needing to have the mental energy to focus. Yeah. You go out that night, wake up, and then the next day, guess what? You're half of what you were the day before. So I definitely think that there's a dilution for those multi-day events in terms of vibe, because the energy just changes. Yeah, because
we all do it. I joke at the dinners, like last year. I even said at the end of the dinner, because we had the dinner on the Friday night, I'll go, guys, listen, do me a favour. I said, keep your powder dry. Tomorrow we'll go nuts. But for sake, make sure I'm in bed by 1 o'clock. Do you know what I mean? Exactly. Just have a bit of a game, but it's true. And then I got speakers going out till 6 o'clock in the morning. We had a great game with Casey. He was fully in on it. He missed his speaker slot. A bit rock and roll, right? So where's Casey? I went, listen, you're up for a bit of fun? He went, what do you want to do? I said, I'm going to bring you out on stage like a naughty boy.
Okay.
Right? So I brought him out and said, just stop every minute. I went, what do you have to say for yourself? And he come and shook me. He said, I'm sorry. I said, where were you last night? He says, I was out dancing till 6 o'clock. I said, yeah, but Anthony made his presentation. What do you have to say? He said, I'm really sorry. And everyone's like, yes. And then we put him on at 2 o'clock. But that's part of the character, it's part of fun. Is that super professional in most people's eyes? Absolutely not. But if you can work the fun factor in there as well, it's entertainment, it's enjoyable, and as long as everyone's safe. You see me, I've got 2 special armed forces on the team. Everyone goes, oh, that's a bit over the top. It's not, because if people drinking alcohol, the way I plan out all the events is that I want to make sure ladies get back safe, I want the guys to get back safe, and if you've got these 2 guys, right, I was interviewing these different people, right, because I'm tired of sorting out shit that happens at night, and I end up being the one who steps in and deal. Not our crew, it's always the peripheral people in and around the event. And as a promoter of ticket sales, I pray when I go to bed, everyone gets to their bed
100%.
safely.
Yeah, that's
right?
huge.
So bringing in those guys, I'll tell you a funny story. I was interviewing a load of people. There's one guy, he sounded like more of a mature gentleman, shall we say, and he wouldn't turn his camera on. I turned his camera on, and I'm thinking, he's got to be 60. I went, mate, listen, with all the love and respect, I show love and respect, but you'll be hiding behind me if something kicks off. Do you know what I mean? I said,
you don't want to be able to beat up the security guard.
I don't do any of that. I'm not that. But you know what I mean? You don't want to be in the front line anyway. And what's beautiful about having 2 special armed forces They will spot anything before you even know, and no one knows. Whereas you get the flat-nosed boxer who stand on the door, looks aggressive, and the ladies love it. They have their pictures taken like personal bodyguards and stuff. So they add flavour. And also, you look in that room. Let's say there's anywhere from 500 million to $1 billion, depending, if Steve Simonson or Ash Thompson turns up, right?
Yeah.
It makes a big difference to the numbers. And when people are going around, I'm a 7-figure seller, I'm an 8-figure seller, only lasts the land on the wrong ears. Kid on the council estate, 5 miles down the road, wants to get himself a couple of grand. Do you know what I mean? He's thinking of these numbers, and I know it sounds over the top, but I'd rather pay over the top for peace.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So over the years, it's changed. We've still stayed on the same model. My goal is to try and bring in, and this is subjective, is try and bring in the very best in that period of advanced marketing. And I've always stuck to my guns on that in terms of content, because a lot of people say, yeah, but Dan, why aren't you doing this and this and this? Can I say, because everyone else does.
Yep.
You turn up, you get a bit of this and a bit of that and that's fantastic, right? But that's not what we're about. If you come, you know what you're getting, and I try my best to deliver, and I try and bring speakers in and say, listen, you're going in the lion's den.
Yeah.
You need to bring them in. So when you stay on stage and you know that Sharon's there and all these wonderful people are up on stage, you want to do your best.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
And who wins? The delegates.
Yeah.
Do you understand? And part of me making sure that the flights are taken care of and the accommodation is done. So it isn't a thing of, I need to recoup. I know it's time is a cost, but I try and make sure there's little out-of-pocket expenses for the speakers, so they're left to think purely about content. In the past, have we had some people pitching and stuff? Absolutely. Do you know what happens? It doesn't reflect well on them.
Yeah, agreed.
I sit down and I have to say that to them, say, look, I understand the UK is different. Europe's like, they don't like to be wound up.
Yeah.
If you're up there pitching, they're like, oh, and that only reflects on you. You've got to be very, very careful. There's nothing wrong with saying this is how you reach me and stuff, but if you were to stand on stage and do a pitch, you stand out completely from everyone else. And basically you go from maybe one of the considered, that's my favourite presentation, to right at the bottom. I don't have to do any work in that.
Yeah.
That's on them, and because it reflects on the people around them. So we spend a year cultivating the whole thing, and each year it gets tougher. So we had these cycles, right? So you had the cycle of the currency companies, then you have the cycle of the aggregators. So there's a bit more money in the market.
Yeah.
When that money comes in, I can take that and I can keep the ticket price down, because as my costs go up, that gets invested. So the sellers.
Because just to understand the dynamics at play here, because and I do want to get into this whole sponsor versus seller centric thing, because it's a balancing act.
Yeah.
To put on a quality event and curate the experience, because it does take money, but then there's also the vibe and the experience of who you're interacting with.
Yeah.
Is the model that the sponsorships basically cover your front end costs and the back end, and then everything's juice on top of that? Or just walk me through the economics, because I think a lot of people need to understand how that works with the sponsorship game.
So what will happen is you want to make sure that all your costs are covered, right, before you open the doors, and then there's all the variables on top.
Sure.
What's happened is the costs go up every single year, so you have to keep remodelling that. So if, let's say you had the flush years of the aggregators, right, so there's a bit more money floating around. Then what you end up doing is you go, oh, okay, I can spend more on speaker flights. I can spend more on this.
Got it.
And then you're backed into a corner, because you have to find it another way when that model kind of moves. Yep. So you have a period where I have a load of aggregators going, wanting
I'll pay
to
50 grand or whatever,
Not even that.
Okay.
It's nowhere near that.
Okay.
So I'll probably have some of the cheapest sponsorship packages in the industry. There's two reasons behind that. One, I'm stupid. And the second one is, if it's not painful to advertise, it means they're not going, where's my leads, where do I need to recoup?
And then it changes the vibe, to your point.
Then it changes the vibe, right?
Yeah.
And I always have conversations with my sponsors, and I have to tell sellers, look, we're in a world now where sellers are going, service providers, Fair enough, right? But if we stripped all that back and we took away the service providers, the ticket shooter.
Yeah.
And I honestly think, as I know sellers, they prefer to still pay the same price.
Agreed. Yeah.
But my job is, how do I find that impossible balance where I can sit down with my sponsors and say, regardless, my sellers come first. The delegates come first. Here's why. You fill a room with just service providers and a handful of sellers. The service provider's not happy because they've got service providers to talk to. The sellers don't want to be tortured.
Yeah.
Right? No one wins.
Yep.
You can be greedy, but you're gone next year.
Yep.
If you want a long run, I've had 8 sold out shows in a row. That's unicorn shit.
Yep.
I've never done that before. I've put on events. I've had empty events after Kiss FM radio campaigns. We're up in, where was it? We were in mid-90s, 96 or something like that. Big drummer bass event, all the big names in the scene, right? Tumbleweeds after a Kiss campaign. Every DJ got paid. Because they're all on the road, they're all doing hour slots, going from one gig to another. They're doing 3 gigs a night. They're all on the phone to each other. Oh, did you go down to the Strictly Underground night? Yes, da da da.
Yeah.
And obviously they're coming in and like thinking, where's my money? You go, there's your check.
Yeah.
And they're like, what?
Yeah.
No arguments? No, there's your check. And that bodes well forward because we would do mix CDs with these people and then they go, anything you need, let us know. Because it's a surprise. It's not an argument to take place,
Yeah.
right? And one of the things with events, it's a different pressure to an Amazon seller, right? I've never seen anyone recover from a half-empty event.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is what happens.
Because sponsors aren't coming back, the sellers aren't coming.
No,
You're done.
you're done. You're toast. You're
Yeah.
cooked.
Yeah.
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 So imagine if every time as a seller you put out a product, if you had one that was a dud,
Your whole business is
your
gone.
business is gone.
Yeah, yeah.
That's the reality.
High stakes. Yeah.
It's very high stakes. It's the burden of performance because anything short than selling out the event, Dan's fallen off.
Yeah.
Oh, sell a session's done.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
and
100%, yeah.
you know how news travels. Bad news travels 10 times faster than good news.
Yeah.
So let's get into, we had the COVID situation. I was desperate to come out the blocks really fast. After doing the big run on the podcast and that, I see people need to connect.
Yeah.
I want to see people feel that, feel loved, get that connection. That cost me about 30 grand because I moved it 6 times. Because I kept announcing it and then got shifted and then I cancel it, deposits go,
Yeah.
refund on this ticket, that ticket. But we managed to get it out in the October. We had about a week's window left before we knew that there's a possible lockdown coming.
Yeah.
So the stakes are really high, do you know what I mean? Because the .gov can
Yeah.
just be like, okay, we're decided
Yeah.
after this week's, we've looked at the rise in Big C and now everything's off. And then
Yeah.
you're like, sellers have booked flights, they've got their accommodations, airline's not going to give you money back.
Yeah.
So I had to think about the sellers, but I also thought, this is our chance. I had a good feeling about the 6th time we tried to put it
Yeah.
on. I think 5 or 6, but I didn't care it cost me money. When we filled that room up, it's such a beautiful feeling
Yeah.
to see all those in the room like that. And then the next one we did, Branded by Women. Now, that's one of my proudest moments and one of the toughest ones up to this seller sessions because we've done both online Branded by Women. So let's take that back. We've got just before COVID. It's January 2020. And I put on Branded by Women Live, September the 11th, 2020. In 3 months, we sold 1 ticket. You go, what's going on there? So then, this is Yana's fault, which I'm grateful of. When COVID kicked in, she went, do Branded by Women online. I went, cool. I said, okay, I'll get set. No, now. And what? She went, now. I went, okay. So in 6 weeks, I had a team of 7 working pretty much 7 days a week. We delivered the first one. Explosive in terms of
Yeah.
people.
Because of the ease of access and
Ease of
yeah.
access, it's
Yeah.
free and blah,
Yeah.
blah, blah. And then when we did the second one, again, that was online. What happened was we overdid it. Basically, I took out my black book and I hit up every favour because I'll help people.
Yeah.
And if you notice, I don't ask for much.
Well,
in return.
we have the same, and this is why, we've been so aligned since we've met each other, but I've got an idiom or a life model I live by, which is give 10 times, ask once.
That's right. Yeah, absolutely.
Or give without intention and
Yeah.
maybe you get it back, maybe you don't. But I think it's really important
You get paid back in good kind.
to not be like, I'm going to do a favor for you now, I expect a favor back.
Yeah, you
No.
don't keep a
I'm going to give you 10,
spreadsheet.
I'm going to ask you,
Yeah.
give 10 times or not even think about how much I've given and just know that if I ever need it, and I'll only use it when I need it,
Yeah.
I can contact you. And I think that you have that same mentality. And
Absolutely.
that's why when you do make an ask, people know it's serious.
Yeah.
And they're more than happy to reciprocate, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So what I did, I secured something like 23 promo spots. Overkill. But I had all the ladies out on round tables and every day for 30 days, well it wasn't 30, it's 23 days in a row leading up to it. And then you have 5 days of content. So 43 hours there, 23 hours there, it's just too much content.
Yeah.
But what it did, you had people like Mel from Avask, I have to show her some love here. She gave me an open checkbook, get it going, Dan.
Yeah.
Well, let's do it. And so it brought a lot of good, I think it brought good intention, good vibe and stuff. And it's a passion project because I had 3 key things in there. I went, how do we get more visibility?
Yeah.
How do we sustain that visibility? And the final one in the jigsaw, how do we sell tickets for an all-female event? Because it's different, meaning it's not that the quality of the ladies are not there, because clearly there is, and they're very smart. The problem is that all these online ones, and I know it because the guy done my summits, does 6 others. So I know the average conversion rate of the upsell of the thing. And it's 6 times lower, only because it's mostly men who buy the upgrades. Because they're normally copywriting or this, that and the other. People would tend, but it tends to be the buying habit. So I had to, if I'm going to do Branded by Women Live, I need to somehow do what I did in the past to visualise the habit, to change the habit.
Yep.
So then when we did Branded by Women Live, we done it on the Friday before Seller Sessions Live. What I was able to do, I said, look, pretend it's a product, right, which it is. I have no social proof behind the product other than what you've seen online. Will you invest in me with your goodwill? Come on Friday, and the tickets are lower price. Because people are trying to work out, well, how comes you can do $299, $349 and $399, but then you do a Branded by Women ticket for like 100 quid, 129 or whatever it was. It's because I was eating the costs, and so was the sponsors.
Yeah.
You know, another one was Olivia, a good friend of mine from Branded. She was the lead sponsor on that. She said, what do you need?
Yeah.
I'll back you 100%.
Yeah.
And we did, and we delivered, you know. But it's tough because you've got to try and change the buying habit.
Yeah.
Again, nothing to do with the fact that it's women. It's to do with the buying habit of the ticket, the investment.
Yeah.
So I had to say, here is the Branded by Women product. I'm going to put my money in by reducing this down. By doing the 2-day event, we can sew the thing together, 2 sets of experiences, but I'm backing this, meaning that you pay a much lower price, but you get both experiences.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. No, and I got to say, I mean, hats off to you. Obviously, you know, there's a lot of variables that go into industry shape shifting, especially with female thought leadership. But the reality is that there's structural institutions and biases and other things that prevent that from occurring naturally. And so it does take female leadership. It does take other folks that are willing to stick their necks out to say, hey, this needs to change. And I do think that there has been a shift, which you contributed to, and the industry has certainly shifted as well. But there's a lot of, I would say, female thought leaders, both at companies as well as on the more public scene that's emerged from then. And it needs to happen because
across my businesses, all my leadership positions are occupied by women.
Yeah, and it's the same thing in the tech world, right? You get into software companies, tech, VC, the same structural challenges exist. And it starts with creating and curating a safe environment that it becomes normal. And I think that Branded by Women was one of the things that can put that stake in the ground. So
and you have to put into what Isabella brings to the table, Sharon
too,
and Athena, the character.
Agreed.
You know, like I learned this from the music industry. Some people have character.
Yes.
And they stand out. I use Isabella as a great example. When Isabella walks in the room, you feel the energy.
Yep.
Does that make sense?
Agreed. Yep.
And not everyone can have that kind of. They call it star power. I mean, we're in the Amazon goldfish bowl. Let's get real. But what I'm saying is she has a character and people warm to her.
Yep.
Yeah, so it's very important when you're picking the leadership roles for something like Branded by Women to drive it forward. Same with like Michelle Venton. Like, she's a very close friend. Like me, Cheryl Meyer, we goes down and stay with the family, her and Dan, you know, they're good friends of mine. And but she was kind of quite reluctant to do it. Everyone loves and respects Michelle, but she didn't, you know, she stepped in a few times, oh, Michelle, please cover for me. She said, Dan, it's you, we'll do it. But, you know, it was a great experience to do that. And people say, well, why have you stopped doing it? I said, it's not about stop doing it. I achieved all the goals that I wanted, and I feel we made changes, and we still say it today.
Yeah.
Now you're seeing more hosts, women are hosting podcasts.
I know.
Outside of Seller Sessions.
Joey Roberts has come out the
There's
scene.
loads.
It's a great thing to see.
It's great, isn't
really
it?
good.
And we're seeing more ladies on stage and on the technical end as well, in your PPC. Look at the growth of Destiny.
Yeah, she's been a
you've got
huge
Retunes
star.
coming through now. She's a killer.
Vanessa Hung.
Yes. Yeah. Technically, because it's not just, it's everything now.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's not just branding, it's not just copywriting, it's everything.
Yeah.
And I will put Destiny up against anyone in this industry.
Agreed.
I mean, Ellis is a machine, right? He's like part man, part cyborg, and he's a coder and stuff. But I knew Destiny from day one. I knew before Destiny got to Better AMS, I know the work she's done to build that machine. And now you see what she's doing today, right? And we're going back a few years. Yana's the same thing. There's so many wonderful people. Look at Sharon's growth. Like when she did the first Seller Sessions, Sharon hadn't been on the stage before. Yeah. But did you notice?
Yeah, not at all.
Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
Normally you've got to get to a stage where people don't understand is that staying on stage is one thing, but you've got to have stagecraft, you've got to have confidence, you've got to understand when things go wrong, you've got to be able to laugh at yourself, you've got to be able to pick up from a certain point. Yeah. I've died on stage plenty of times. Yeah. Do you see what I mean? But you have to ride those, but sometimes throwing people into the lion's den, it's not always going to work, but they kill it every time. Yeah. Behind the scenes of some people, not those guys, but I've had ladies come to me and go, I don't know about this. I said, you're going to go out, you're going to kill it, and that's it. It's like, you sure? I went, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Go out, smash it. Yeah. Do you see what I mean? Yeah. So that makes me proud when you can do something that has meaning to it. Like as I've got older, money, we like money, but I need stuff that gets
purpose.
Me up.
Yeah, purpose.
You've got to have a purpose.
Purpose becomes it as you've. I think what I've started to realize in my life and career after I've checked a lot of boxes that you think would make you happy. Yeah. Financial, title, professional achievement, follower count, view, like all the bullshit dopamine hits that you think matter. Yeah. You realize they don't, and it becomes purpose and fulfillment and what makes you feel, to use your word vibe, and align with yourself. That's where the magic happens. And so that being the root of Seller Sessions, I certainly felt it. I'll maybe kind of capstone it, and I know that I would say this to you off camera, but I think what was special about it for me is this balancing act of having it be seller centric, which is hard to do because of the economics of everything. Yeah. And frankly, I think that the scene in the US has been fairly well polluted, where you have a higher chance of having the vibe be off because you don't want to be sold to. I'm there for information, and if I'm having a beer with you afterwards, I don't want to feel. Yeah. There's nothing worse than chatting with somebody or seeing a presentation where you're just waiting for it. You're like, okay, this person's going to sell me something. And you know it, and it ruins the entire experience. So I think
you see the face, do you know? And someone's chatting, and then you see
the what they're doing.
Expression.
They're not being nice to you guys. Yeah, and then you're done, So I feel like the environment of sellers added energy. I think everybody that left was like, because you're in your office or you're in your small co-working space, whatever it is. And I think one element we don't have is in-person community with the business that we saw. I don't want to work in an office, and I think the trade-offs are certainly worth it, but one thing you absolutely lose is the in-person community and that human connection. So I think that was very much there. I think the content was awesome. We talked about this off camera, but there was a couple of real big hitter sellers that you wouldn't see on YouTube, that you wouldn't see on podcasts that gave presentations, and those are amazing. Yeah. These aren't the happy smiley faces for the Instagram reel or whatever else. They're just people that build businesses quietly behind the scenes, and those are the monsters. And so bringing those on stage.
Well, I did that was to I give them a run out, because you always got the balance where you want to get as many sellers on stage as possible, but then you've got sellers who are reluctant to do it, or they've never had the stage skills to do it because they haven't done it before. It makes it very tricky. Yeah. But what I'm finding, we're seeing a trend more now where sellers are opening up. Yeah. They are willing to go on stage, and they have the presence to go.
And they're damn articulate,
they're articulate. Yeah, exactly. That's the most important thing. So I put them out on the podcast. I love Ben Webber. Yeah, right. Absolutely love him. Yeah. And then obviously we've got Matt Altman as well. Yeah. Love the guys. And what I did, it was good to get them on the podcast to get people to get a feel for them. I got a feel from them, and I'm going, yes, these will work on stage. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Because it's part of the experience.
But even if they don't have the pizzazz that you would think would be the necessary
pizzazz.
They don't need it because people are like, this isn't bullshit. This person knows what they're talking about.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be sold anything.
Yeah.
And yeah, maybe the slide doesn't have a freaking animate, whatever. It's just like whatever, but it's about the raw, real content.
When you've got something, again, it comes down to the energy. How does that person carry themselves, their energy, right? I don't give a fuck about how the slides look. Is what these people
quiet
achieved.
confidence.
Quiet confidence.
Yeah.
They'll go up there. They can be unassuming. It doesn't matter because if they can articulate themselves and then people tune into the character of that person, the rest is irrelevant. Going up on stage and whacking a suit on and being charismatic but it's all bollocks. Like I always say to people, never ever do a speaking. Don't go on a speaking course because they'll iron you out and turn you into a vanilla ice cream.
Yeah.
Do you understand?
Yeah.
I want you to have your edges. Like I'll tell you a funny story. A friend of mine, a seller in the UK, he said, "Dan, do you know something?" He said, "You're the only person I know who can get away with swearing your head off on stage and it's somehow acceptable."
Yeah.
And I said, "Do you know why? We create an experience and swearing's not good. I know that, right? You know, but it's having some fun, having some jokes, and not taking everything so seriously. Take your work seriously, but be able to interject something. Have your own character in there. Have your flaws. Do you understand?
And for me, that was coming from corporate. That's been one of the beautiful things with the Amazon space is it's real. It's real human beings without the corporate BS. And I think that it takes deliberate, thoughtful action on the part of conference organizers to keep that vibe. Because I do think that there's a corporate influence now. And if it doesn't get protected, then you lose that element. And so anyway, hats off on this show. What I want to maybe talk about next is like, where do we go from here? I think that each event that I've been to two of them, there was certainly a step up in terms of vibe, execution, everything else. But you're only as good as your last party. So what do we do next year? What are your thoughts moving forward on the game?
I'm still getting over the CPTSD of the most recent one. It's one of those things, like you say, you're never going to do it again. And normally what happens, on the day of the event, I feel the relief and then I settle into the vibe.
Yeah.
I can't honestly say I didn't feel anything but relief until the Thursday after the event when we sold all the super early birds. And the reason that is because I've mentioned it on the podcast before, but a shorter version. We originally going to go for the weekend before, and we was at the David game, so it would have been our fourth one at the David game. The problem is we had the coronation on the 6th, right? So I said to Kerry, look,
hotels would be £700 or something stupid, right?
Well, not just that, it's London would be locked down, so you can't manoeuvre around, right?
Yeah.
So it's a bit mess for travel and everything else. So I said, look, let's get on to Neil and we'll move the date, we'll do it to the 13th. We'll do it either the week before, what they got available, week before, week after. She comes back, Dan, what's the matter? We lost the venue. What do you mean? Neil's gone. What do you mean Neil's gone? Do you know what I mean? We were only contacting them, like, normally I might not speak to the venue for ages, but we were never told anything. Nothing was passed over. It took me a week to get hold of the new charge hand down there. And I kid you not, the only reason this person got on the phone is because I was phoning all my connections inside. And that person picked up the phone and intercepted the call and only decided to talk to me then. So I'm like, what's going on? We've been waiting 7 days. Like, we don't know, because he said, like, we can't do it, but we can. And David Game had been turned in from a standard college to a boarding, which means there's a lot more red tape. Okay. So all our outside events were skipped. And I'm like, why didn't no one tell me? Because I would have reached out in March.
Yeah, of course.
Bear in mind, we've already sold all super early birds and some of the earlies, right? We're now in first week of December. I'm like, whiff, basically, because the David Game is so much cheaper to hire. And you're not just, what happens is the whole area. So the right hotels, the 24-hour, but everything that we build is part of the experience.
You want people to be able to walk 5-10 minutes from what they got to do.
And there's nothing in the area. Right? I got to the point where when I was speaking to this person on the phone, they said, I'll just put you on hold. They were sitting there eating their lunch while I'm on hold, while they're going through bits of paperwork and stuff. 20 minutes. I thought, are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah.
I've got 6 figures on the line here. Or will have. Do you know what I mean? And you're sitting there keeping it after a whole week, and I thought, lack of respect. And I'm like, even if we could save it. Then they started trying to give us some July dates.
Gosh, yeah.
Yeah, and I said, well, we need the second room. So, oh no, we've got because there was a gymnasium area. There's 2 rooms, right? in there's a gymnasium. Well, I always want the second one because it's a bigger room, it's a nicer looking room, that's where we could do all the food and stuff. No, we've got the school in. I said, well, hold on, I thought you don't have outside. Yeah, no, the school stays. You know, I was like, oh, okay, right. What have you got? And then it's going to be a Friday. And I thought, oh, this is not going to work. I said to Kerry, scout every venue. I'm on to the cinemas and everything in the area. This is how desperate I got. I spoke to the bingo hall. The Fingo Hall, just behind
oh man, that's classic.
the Dorset City Hotel.
Yeah.
And the guys, I was speaking to the phone, and this what holds about 180, but it's a funky place. It's just called a bingo hall. I thought, how do we work this way, right? So I thought, fuck it. I started negotiating with them, and then he's like, when we got to the food, I said, all right, look, let's do open book. Mm-hmm. Here are my invoices for the last 3 years, right?
Yeah.
But you want 2.5 times that.
Yeah.
Can we get to a number that's sensible? What do you mean? I thought, this is how much we pay.
Yeah.
You want 2.5 times more. Can you explain to me? And then they went disappearing and stuff. And then my tour agent, Brett, phoned me up. He'd done the world tour for me last year. Like, books all my flights, accommodation, books all the speakers. Helps
almost got you shot in New York, but
I nearly got shot in New York. Yeah, we'll
give him a pass on that.
We'll give him a pass on that. Yeah, send me into the hood, me and Mark.
Yeah.
And we've got the video evidence as well. We've got receipts on that. But no, that was quite funny. You know, it's
that was a good story.
But then he's come up. He said, Dan, he said, I don't know if it's suitable, but we've got the American Conference Centre. I said, where's that? He said, off for Minories. I went, what? He went, yeah, Minories, the long road that you come down and, you know, you've got this hotel and this. I went, there's nothing down there. He said, it's the final road. So I've scoured that area.
And it was a beautiful venue and close to everything. Like, it checks all the boxes and then some.
But then, you know, once you start getting into...
They're going to charge you £7 a coffee.
You're going to get bent over.
Yeah,
right? So I'm going to have silly buggers here. It's going to be 10x, not 4x. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
So we come to, you know, there's a few complications, but we managed to get the deal done. I went in, see the people, told them the vision. This is what we do. I'll come here every year. I'll pay all your money up front. You know, I'm desperate. And this is our last shot, or otherwise, no one's going to swallow going, hey guys, you know that we've not put the prices up for the last 3 years and you've got margin suppression. How'd you like an 800 quid ticket?
Or you change it by 2 months when they're on family vacation in the summer and whatever else.
So there's a lot riding. So I actually got that and the VIP dinner, because we'll get into that. But I got the VIP dinner tied down. So on Christmas Eve, I just wanted to go to Christmas. I signed up at 4:45 on Christmas Eve. Venues paid, VIP dinners paid, after parties paid, everything's set up. And I was just thinking, for that.
Yeah.
Now we've got to go into the new year and start selling, doing a year's work in 5 months.
Yeah.
Then all the refunds come in because we moved the date. So we've gone from selling out the super early birds and some of the earlies to shifting, you know, going back to leaving 10% left over the tickets that were already sold. So we're back to square one.
Yeah.
So not only I've got to work out how do we get around the 4x in costs, but how do we now cultivate and sell this event in that takes a year to do, off the back of everything, and then we do it. And we gunned it, right? Every day. You see the AI posters we've done. We had a bit of fun.
You did a great job with that.
So we've done a lot of that stuff, try to be really creative and stuff, grinding ticket, 1 ticket, 2 tickets, 3 tickets. It's like the Chinese water torture. Drip, drip, drip. 6 weeks out, we sold out. It's like, fuck me, we sold this out. Now we can focus on the conference. Yeah. 2 weeks out, rail strike. National rail strike, Friday and Saturday. I got you kidding me. Absolutely kidding me. You're torturing me. So I sat the team down and said, this is what I'm doing. I want you to go through every postcode from the ticket holders and I want it mapped.
So people understand, from coming from a city that's maybe an hour and a half, 2 hour train ride away, that might not have been an option for some of these satellite cities in the UK.
Yeah,
due to the train strike.
Yeah, so the way we broke it out was like we had the internationals, which we knew we could get there.
Yeah,
right.
Just a flight and a cab. Yeah.
We had the Londoners, we knew we could get there, because when someone says like a train strike, they don't mention most have a skeleton service or an alternative.
Yeah, it's just certain routes are closed, or you can Uber for $20 and it's not that big.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So you work it out, and then what I did was we went to every code. We had a cohort of 54 people outside of London, and you had the internationals, and I worked out every postcode. So we've done all the postcodes, and then we come up with various different ways to travel, whether that's a coach, which takes a bit longer but a lot cheaper, skeleton services, all that stuff. I even set up carpooling, 6 cars.
Yeah.
And this is the beauty of the relationships I have with sellers. He's like, Dan, do you need me to drive? And I can pick up, I can go to Manchester and da-da. We didn't end up using the carpooling. So we got that sorted, but we still didn't have any data right up until that week because they don't announce anything. We found out the Monday of that week, right? So it's like, oh, okay, it's not as bad after all. We had a few people phone and I went, okay, we'll get you there. Job done. Yeah. Fantastic, great. But then the rest was tumbleweed, so I had nothing, right? So you're like, oh, you know, get Saturday morning and find out if you've got half empty venue. Tuesday morning, I've got an emotional Italian man on the phone screaming at me, telling me the dinner's off.
From the venue?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because what happens is, poor old Kerry has to email very busy people 6 times to get their food in. So you sell the tickets. We had 93 covers.
And I think I'm on her shit list because I was pretty bad with it. She probably had to ask me 10 times, but yeah.
So I've got him screaming in my ear. Didn't react. I'm quite good with that kind of stuff because I see the bigger picture.
Calm, yeah.
And then what's happened? My wife's come to me. She said, "How the f*** you let them speak to me?" I said, "Listen, baby, I'm going to need this guy later in the week. I promise you. I know I will, you know."
Yeah.
And I said, "Look, if I kick off and go, who the f*** do you think you're talking to?"
Yeah.
Right? And that's not going to work. And I'm thinking, I've got sponsors, I've got 93 mouths to feed. There's no way of switching up venues and everything now. It'd be a mitigated disaster.
Yeah.
So I hold it down. So managed to sort it out. Transpires. He's already had he's had the list in, which was a live spreadsheet to add the data. It was just 2 names missing.
Okay.
So we know what to do next year to deal with that. But
Yeah.
obviously, you know, he's then throwing Kerry under the bus and I held it down and everything else. So gets to London on Thursday. Me and Shell head down and then drop all, because we've got all the signage and we bring it up in an Uber and stuff. Checked in at the suite, dropped everything off, and then I'm straight down there and like, go and meet the guy, right? I've walked in and, because we recognise each other on Zoom. Walked up, shook his hand, he went, "You look a lot different to him, Zoom."
I probably wouldn't have talked to you that way had I known.
And I went, "Don't worry about it."
Well, it's funny you said that because when we first met in New York for the first time, I just thought you were like not to be stereotypical, but like a shorter little UK guy. You know, the type of little footballers, whatever else. Yeah, so I was surprised that you're right.
Well, this is the thing, it's hard, it's quite funny because when you're doing the podcast and you've got the background, and you look like a little naughty schoolboy or a couple, right? Yeah. And then people see me that I'm just shy of 6 foot, do you know what I mean? 200 pounds. It's like, oh, okay, there's a difference, right?
Agreed.
So I knew that guy wasn't, you know, like most people, you don't scream at
He had
people.
a bad day or whatever.
He had a bad day.
It's not about you, it's about what's going on.
It was about what was going on. He was stressed. I had to relieve his stress, but I knew that if something went wrong later, because you know how things work out. It's like he would have realised he had the sheets. Exactly. He would have realised he screamed at me. Yeah. He would have realised, like, he may not apologise, but he might think, do you know what, that was a bit off. Yeah. Right. Yeah. So. Yeah. But even then, we get down there on the Thursday. He's still throwing Kerry under the bus. I'm holding it down. Right. I don't like that. I don't like spineless people.
Agreed.
To do that, especially throwing women under the bus. Yeah. I believe in absolute ruthless self-accountability. Yeah. So sucked it up. I even told Kerry, she just laughed. Because she understands as well. This is part of, you get hit with a shit stick when you're doing promotions and stuff. Got it all sorted, military operation, we planned everything out and we're like, okay, I'll come and do layout the next day. So gets to Friday, got Tim Jordan's workshop going, still not kind of clear of numbers. Right? Because you've got to wait till the Friday night.
And so is the concern there, just what you're saying, because it was a sellout, so financially you're good, but is it about the vibe? Like you don't want to have crickets?
All what's going to happen, let's say half the people turn up, you touched, you're done. Okay. So what happens is your sponsors don't want to come back, and they'll go, Dan, half empty. Yeah. So you give money back, right? Then you refund all the other people because you want to keep your name, right? Got it. And out of respect. And got it. I don't care about the money, right? But what I care about is when you strategically plan everything and someone throws in a rail strike and then someone turns around and says to me, you know, a couple of years ago, the day 2 for, I think it was White Label Expo, but their tickets are free. So it was empty. I thought, cheers, thanks for that, I really need to know that. So then we get to the Friday, we're then military based, we're like running behind, but strategically planned everything. We come up with a new system on the door and everything. People come in, they take a card, they know where to place the mic. Didn't work last year, so when you've got 93 people in there, the noise goes up, especially if they've been on the piss as well, right? Yeah. So the noise goes up and you're going, can you sit down please? 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 With a microphone, you can go, hi, can you come and sit down? And then they kind of get embarrassed, right? And they go and sit down in their chair. So that bit was all done. I said to the girls, I said, look, let's go over to the venue, because normally we do set up on Saturday morning. Let's go over there, we'll take the rolly cases, the pens and pads, the merch, the signage. Checked in with Tim, everything's going well there, cut the fire alarms, nothing to worry about, food was good, fine, took care of that. Go straight over to there, we've hit the venue, gone in there, room's completely laid out wrong. Not only is the room completely laid out wrong, it's 50 chairs short, 47 chairs short.
Oh my gosh.
So what would have happened on Saturday, as we're getting to ringing the bell, got everyone in the room, you would have 47 people without chairs. Then you would have to empty out the whole room, right? Bearing in mind everything's on a 30-minute schedule, you've got the embarrassment of that. It's going to take you an hour to reshuffle the room, and in the panic you wouldn't know about it and so.
Yeah.
So speaking to the person at the venue, they go, not my fault. I went, no, it's cool. Look, this is what we do. Me and Matt, we don't mind getting sweaty. We'll drag the chairs in, relay the room out, job done. I'd rather now than the next day.
Yeah.
So it ends up getting it done, relay the room. I'm running behind. I've got impromptu drinks that I've set up from 4 o'clock to 6:30 before the dinner.
Yeah.
So then I get back 10 to 4. So I was meant to be popping out in the morning to sort shit out, and then I arrive back 10 to 4, straight in, shower, downstairs, open the bar up people, get that thing going. Then I'm thinking about tomorrow, what's going on next.
Yeah, of course.
Right, so, and then we head over to the dinner. Dinner's fine. I'm just having shandies, right? I'm just like, I need to focus for tomorrow. So I had some shandies and that. Literally, when it finished, I run to bed. Like normally I'd pop out, have a few drinks. I like to enjoy myself, right? Let myself hair down and stuff. I was in bed 10 past 11, up at 5, pacing, going through the slides, bits and pieces.
And you have to present and
I've got to present, I've got to go do the assembly, I've got to make sure everything's running and everything. Head over, 7 o'clock, boom, military operation. The whole team comes out.
Yeah.
It's like watching magic happen.
Yeah.
But luckily that we did everything on the Friday and not get into the Saturday.
Yeah.
Sitting there Saturday and I'm thinking, they're starting to come in. I think a good indicator was...
Because you still don't know what the...
Well, we knew 93 people were coming, or 92 because one didn't show for the dinner. So we had 93 covers, 92 showed.
Okay.
So that was good. Yeah. Military operation, as far as I'm aware, everyone's happy. I'm happy. So tick 2 boxes. The tin box, the workshop, tick that box, and then you got Saturday. So we got an impossible schedule and I'm thinking, are we starting at 10, 11, 12? Are we waiting for people and everything else? And so you're still up, you're still amped, and then people start to come in and it starts to fill out. And then you start to feel that relief. Yeah. Not excitement, relief.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah? And then, bizarrely, everything's running for every 30 minutes. And you speak to, to the speaker, listen, you just can't, we're going to turn the mic off. You can't run over. We actually...
And it looked like it was going to be bad until early afternoon, then somehow it caught up. But it all worked out, like...
It caught up.
I didn't think it was going to happen, but it did.
Till 4:45. We finished 15 minutes ahead of schedule.
You never would have thought that halfway.
Not when you've got all this other shit to deal with, right? You would never think that. And do you know what was part of the genius thing? When I found the bell, and I was going, bring out your dad, bring out, have a bit of fun with, and people go in and they sit down, and it really works well because it's hard to get people without coercing them, and you have a bit of banter, like, come on, ding, 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 oh, he's got that fell again, and then when everyone gets in the room, everyone's focused, great, and then they come out, and that little kind of trade show area, with the booths, worked really well, people are very happy with the content, and then I've got my mind on the after party, engineers, is that set up right, because going to that new venue, we had to take their package, which means I'm paying 2 sets of engineers. I take Glenn everywhere, he does all my DJ setup, he does all my events, he's former fabric engineer, Ministry of Sound, big name clubs. He does everything for me, and I'm now paying 2 people. I'm paying for their people because it's part of the package, and I'm paying Glenn to oversee, and they worked as a team to make sure it's smooth. So in the afternoon, head over the other venue, because it's a 4-hour setup for the DJ setup. We bring all the equipment in, the lighting and everything, sound test, everything. Go back to the venue, hacks, do the encore, close the show. Gets back to the hotel, I'm thinking, I'm starving. And people would nip out and have a bit of food. We always put a bit of food on, right?
Yeah.
And then what happens is, I phoned a guy up, I said, what time you bring the food out? He went, what food? He said, well, you never told me about. I said, hold on a minute. I can't, I said, okay, no, actually, I said, I'll see you down the venue. I thought I'd do this in person.
Yeah.
I don't want all this.
Guy or?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't want all this much screaming like again, all this emotional stuff.
And you know what I look like now, so let's just tone it down a little bit. Yeah.
So I get to the venue. He said, you didn't tell me about food. I said, listen, and I bring the lady in over here who works there. I said, I know you've taken over, and these are some of the staff from previously. I didn't deal with this lady because you had a different front of house person, but your contract states I can't put an event on without taking X amount of food in terms of value on the minimum spend.
Yeah.
So there may be a mess up, but I tell you now, this is what's going to happen. You're going to go and get me some food. He said, well, what do you mean I can't bring... I said, yes, you can. Yeah. You're going to find me some food. Otherwise, you're going to have a riot on your hands.
Yeah.
So it's down to you. Go, yeah, but my bosses and all this. I said, listen, I'm going to make you a hero. Mark it up 25%. Then smile across his face, goes out, negotiates, brings in 3 sets of food throughout the night.
Yeah.
Taken care of. Do the DJ gig, goes well. Even at 1 o'clock, I'm so fucking exhausted. No partying after, no nothing. Straight to bed.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wake up Sunday morning. Did everyone get back safe? That's what I'm worried about.
Yeah.
Get up, and what we do is we make space for people that say got a later flight and stuff. Come in, I'll pick up your breakfast, have a few drinks, last bit of networking, and then I normally shut down 2 o'clock. When I get in the cab, my legs are buckling. I get in the cab at 2 o'clock. That's when I know I'm done. Get in the cab. Took me 4.5 hours to get home. There was 2 pile-ups on the motorway.
Oh,
so
gosh.
we're literally on the motorway at a standstill. People were sunbathing on the banks, sitting there, the alcohol's come out, sweating in the car. So, and that was it. It was just sheer relief. And I said to Kel, never again. Never going through that stress. It was horrible, right, to do that again. So I said to Kel, look, we're going to get ahead. We now know our venues. I've got to work out a new numbers model to make this work because costs have gone up. We're going to deliver this, and then we're going to get the super early birds out. But to know they're taken care of, I know we have something ready for next year because I ain't doing that stress again. It's horrible.
Yeah.
Right? So it wasn't until the Thursday after, when all the super early birds went, that I actually appreciated it, and it was beautiful. Like people unprovoked, just met, people were getting their stuff out before I done a thank you post.
Yeah, it was great.
Right? And so you feel like right. You've accomplished that, it's right. But to me, it's never right. Like, it's always a way to get better. And so next year...
And the imperfections that people didn't see. They never would see, but still know.
But people said, like, you must love it, Dan. This was the best one ever and all this. And I'm like, I just feel relieved.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think even like with Kata, I sat down with her on a chat. We'd done a FaceTime. I said, look, I can't do many more of these. I've got no feelings for this. Do you know what I mean? So next year, May 11th, we're going to do it all again, but we're going to do better. We're going to streamline stuff. I'm going to work out a new financial model as well. I'm going to try and up level more sellers on stage.
Yeah, I love that.
As many sellers as I can pack that stage with and give them opportunities, I will, because I know they resonate with the delegates.
Yeah.
And it's that family vibe. And that's the same thing with... Whenever I put an event, you'll see me walking around, no matter how busy I am, I make an effort to go up and give them a hug or shake hands with every person and say thank you. It's like my way of saying, I see you and thank you for investing in Seller Sessions because you've got all of these choices out here, but you chose us again. Yeah. And I want people to know that I appreciate them. And I think they do through the work that they do. Yeah. But that's pretty much the story. There's loads of stuff I probably missed out on, but that's just a little bit of behind the scenes, of what goes on. They're not easy to do. There's a fine line balancing with ensuring sponsors feel loved and taken care of, and ultimately protecting and prioritising sellers. I mean, a chunk of money lost out on yesterday because no, not doing that because it didn't meet my criteria. I probably lost out on about 250k all over these years in sponsorship. Sure. I won't do pay to play. I won't do sell registration lists or anything like that. And it's not because I'm trying to be a dick. I'm trying to preserve the social currency of that room. So people go in there, they feel safe, they feel good, and they feel it's a vibe where they can go and tell their friends and walk away and goes, Seller Sessions was an experience for me.
Yeah.
One day I'd like you to think, if you ever think about the events, do you remember that event we used to go to?
Yeah.
That's what means the world to me.
Yeah.
That's what I want.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I think you shared with the story that stuff like this doesn't happen by accident. It feels, from a user experience standpoint, just like, yeah, this is cool, it's easy, the vibe's right. Like, all those things just felt natural and right, but it doesn't happen by accident. It takes good people in the industry curating and being thoughtful about what they're trying to create and bring to the table for the community. And I think that you're one of the studs when it comes to, being a seller first, seller centric, value first person in the space. And we're lucky to have had the event. We're lucky to have you. It was a pleasure attending, man. Thanks for getting me out to London, and I'm getting to spend a month in Europe, which has been. I haven't done that since 2004 yet. I'll be back next year. 100%. Yeah, 100%.
Thank you.
All right, brother.
Cheers.
Good chatting.
Thanks.